Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cameras and Coffee for this Wednesday, whatever the date is. I honestly don't know right now, towards the end of May. So, yesterday we talked about how coronavirus could affect photographers. In today's continuation of that series, we're going to talk about how coronavirus could affect, or is affecting, the retail sector. So by retail, basically what I'm talking about is the point of sale for camera equipment and supplies for the photographer and the hobbyist, etc. Now, the retail portion of it is not just the counter with the stuff. The retail portion includes obtaining the materials that are going to be sold. So while the retailers are not responsible for transporting equipment from manufacturing to retail, that's a middleman, but will be grouped in bulk into the manufacturing portion that we talk about on Friday. The retailers are affected by transportation. So with new equipment, there have been some hiccups with delivery. Now, the reason for that, shipping seems apparently is not as widely affected as some other means of transportation and delivery. Shipping, like mass shipping, like cargo shipping, there are clearly some effects. Looking at how long stuff is taking to get here from China that I purchased off eBay, it is a significantly longer time. So there are some delays or interruptions into that portion of the supply chain. So getting materials from manufacturer to retail has apparently been taking a little bit more time. Getting materials, we'll talk about shipping to the customer in just a second, but the retail experience that you might be used to of being able to go into this company camera store and look at an item and things like that, at least for the foreseeable future, is likely to change. Now, just here where I live today or yesterday, something like that, the nearby malls have been allowed to open, and I haven't been over yet, obviously, because I look at the parking lot and it's just like, no, I do not want to go over to a mall that is that packed right now. I think I'll let things kind of calm down on their own for a little bit. Thank you very much. And but that also means that the camera store that's about a half mile away might be open. So that I might go and check out, just to see what it's like over there. But we have had to go out to a few stores to get supplies, and we've had to wait in lines with, of course, spacing, and they're only allowing a certain number of people in the store, and they're encouraging you to get your stuff and get out quickly and so forth. So the experience of retail, which used to be more of a go in, ask some questions, converse with the retail staff, can be a sort of leisurely experience, that is likely to change, where in order to maintain a flow of traffic, especially at higher volume retailers, the stores seem to be encouraging people to get in and get out and make their sales quickly. And I'm not certain that camera stores will be a high enough volume for that to be the case, but if they are, that would be a loss, truly would be a loss, because the camera store is a place for photographers and people who understand photography to chit-chat, share resources, things like that. So at any rate, I hope that if that does change, that it's only a short-term change. That's an immediate effect of retail, right in the near term. Another effect on retail, let's talk about the online ordering portion of it, because online ordering has, if you look at the metrics over the years, it gets more important. All that's well known. It's a higher share of the retail market. During this pandemic, especially the lockdown period here in the US, the portion of online sales has jumped way up. And I can say that too. I've been incredibly busy this year. So there are a couple of things that have been affected by that. We talked the other week about some numbers about how selling widgets are affected by different numbers. One of the big things in the used market, the used resale market, is that the cost of materials acquisition has jumped dramatically to a point that looking at any of the online spaces where I could buy cameras to purchase, to fix up, to clean, and then to ship, I'm not buying. I can't make a profit on anything right now. The acquisition costs are so high. And my shipping times are way, way longer. Priority mail 2-day shipping, it's taking like 6 or 7 days to get there to California, and that's a major hub, right? The reason being that distribution for online orders, if you ship, if the place you're purchasing from uses the postal service, like let's say, the postal service buys space on commercial airplanes. So there's always, whenever a commercial airplane flies, there is some amount of space designated for cargo to be sold for the mail, or for other cargo companies like FedEx and UPS, I think, also buy excess space on commercial planes, though I could be wrong on that. And but the post office is a major purchaser of that. So there are fewer commercial planes flying, which means that there's less cargo transit. So priority mail, which is what I ship all of my stuff with, almost everything I ship with is priority mail, has gone from a 2 to 3 day delivery time to a 6 to 7 day delivery time. First class, a week and a half, 10 days or more sometimes. So one of the ways that this has affected online ordering is that it's become harder to get the materials to resell. It's also become long, the delivery times have gotten longer, and that can be a real issue when we're talking about fulfilling orders for people who want them in a certain and quick period of time. So which has come to be an expectation of online ordering, right? So there are some other ramifications, like specifically for me. I have been trying to find rubbing alcohol since March because I use that to clean all of the cameras before I ship them. I can't. I'm going to run out of it in like a week and a half, 2 weeks, tops. So that's at any rate. So the ways in which retail have been affected are that it's for the new market, it's taking longer for equipment to get here, and it's taking longer for basically in transit to get from overseas. Then in the used market, it's getting harder to find the supply of used equipment needed to maintain that threshold of used equipment. And for both markets, the delivery times to the consumer are really, really high right now. So those are some immediate changes that are likely to last until the economy returns to normal, right? Whenever that happens. But then if we touched on the difference in the retail experience. And so quite honestly, I think that probably for me, the biggest concern about how this pandemic could affect the camera sales market it doesn't actually directly affect me. It affects my experience going out to the local camera stores and being able to just chit chat with the sales reps who really, every camera store I've ever been to, the salespeople really know their stuff, and that is no exception here either. Or sometimes I've been there getting supplies and I'll hear someone ask a question in the next aisle over and I'll just answer it for them. The days of being within earshot of somebody asking a question and being able to converse with them over it are, for the time being, on hold at least. So the optimistic side of this is that I'm hopeful that this pandemic will not be with us forever. There are two converging forces. Let's think of it this way. You've got a growing herd immunity as people like one of my brothers are exposed to this and get over it and develop that immunity. And you've got an effort to create a vaccine, and the early vaccine trials have been promising. So in all probability, these two forces will intersect. Actually, I guess it'd be more like this going up the chart. But there'll be an increase in herd immunity, and then there'll be a vaccine, and people will start being vaccinated. And at some point, there will be enough people who have either had it and recovered or have gotten vaccinated for life to return to normal. And then it's just a matter of understanding what societally caused this to be able to take such a hold and adapting our practices to make sure that the next time a pandemic occurs, that we are in a position where we recognize the seriousness of it and act appropriately earlier. So hopefully that doesn't mean long-term societal changes, but does mean some best practices next time something like this arises. So at any rate, those are just some general thoughts on how the retail market is likely to be affected by this. And on Friday, we'll talk a little bit about production and distribution of newer equipment and some of how that's been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Have a good Wednesday, everybody.